Before he became a legend, before the world called him the king of country, there was a little Texas boy whose life shattered in a single moment, and it changed everything. Because behind every hit song, every sold-out stadium, and every whisper-soft note of Amarillo by morning, lies a childhood scar so deep it shaped the man he would become. This isn't just the story of George Strait, the superstar. This is the story of the storms he survived, and the moment that forged an American icon. Left behind with his father John Strait Sr. and his older brother Buddy Strait, George learned discipline, silence, and survival on the ranch. Mornings started before the sun. Work never waited, and loneliness settled into him earlier than most children could understand. But somewhere in that silence, music began to glow like a spark waiting for air. He joined a small garage band called the Stoics, chasing rock music and the thrill of performing. But destiny met him one night inside a neon-filled Texas dance hall, when the cry of the fiddle and the steel guitar hit him with a truth deeper than anything he had ever felt. Country music wasn't just sound, it was his story. After serving in the Army in Hawaii, George returned home in 1975 searching for direction. Money was painfully tight. His apartment in San Marcos grew so cold in winter he sometimes slept in his jacket. But he found a lifeline when he joined a struggling band that would soon become the ace. In the whole band, together they played smoky bars, cheap dance halls, and roadside venues that barely paid enough for gas. But Nashville didn't want him. Executives told him he was too traditional, that his music didn't fit the new sound. Rejection after rejection wore him down. By 1980, exhausted and defeated, George was ready to quit. He accepted a job designing cattle pens, convinced the dream that carried him for years was over. But his wife Norma Strait, the girl he had married at 19, refused to let him give up. She looked him in the eyes and said, "Give it one more year." And that small sentence changed everything. With help from Irv Woolsey, a former MCA executive, George received one last chance. One song, one shot. The song was Unwound when it climbed the charts in 1981. The door that had been shut on him for years finally opened. The world began to hear the voice destiny had been waiting for. As the 80s and 90s unfolded, George Strait didn't just rise, he redefined country music. Album after album went platinum, stadiums overflowed, and tours like the Cowboy Rides Away tour became historic events. Fans saw the legend, but few saw the toll behind the scenes. George pushed through exhaustion, illness, and back pain that sometimes left him trembling. But he kept going, refusing to let anyone down. Then in 1986, tragedy shattered the Strait family. Their 13-year-old daughter, Jennifer Strait, left home for a short evening with friends. She promised she'd be back soon. She never returned. A sudden car accident took her life before help could arrive. The loss devastated George and Norma. At the funeral, George stood beside the small casket, his head clutched to his chest, his heart breaking in silence. He later admitted he didn't know if he could ever sing again. But slowly, through grief, the family held tight to one another. Loss didn't stop there. In 2009, George's brother Buddy Strait passed away suddenly. A year later, in 2010, his mother Doris Strait died after a long illness. And in 2013, he lost his father, the final connection to his beginnings. With that, George learned a painful truth. Even the strongest men eventually stand alone. In his late 50s and 60s, a new battle appeared, this time inside his own body. Severe laryngitis threatened to take his voice. Later, spine problems caused burning pain that forced cancellations in 2018, 2021, 2023, and through 2024 and 2025. Some mornings, he couldn't stand without Norma helping him. But she reminded him that strength wasn't about never hurting. It was about continuing despite the pain. Slowly, he recovered. His voice returned, richer than before. His spirit stayed unbroken. Thank you for watching. In a world full of noise, George Strait reminds us what true greatness looks like: quiet strength, loyal love, and a legacy built from sheer resilience. From ranch dirt to global stages, he earned every step of his crown. May his story inspire you to rise, no matter how heavy the storm.